So, if you think you know the rules for managing a brand's reputation, well, you might want to think again. The whole game has changed completely. Today, we're going to dig into how the smartest brands aren't just defending their reputation anymore, they're actually engineering it from the ground up. Let's just kick things off with a number that should really get your attention: 96%. That's the percentage of organizations that have been hit with a major disruption in just the last couple of years. So, this kind of threat, it's not a possibility anymore. It's pretty much a constant. So, what does that constant threat really mean for you? Well, it means that reputation is now on fast forward. I mean, it used to take decades, literally decades, to build a solid, trustworthy corporate reputation. And now, that very same reputation can be absolutely shattered in an instant. All those old, slow, methodical strategies, they're just obsolete.
Yeah, to put it bluntly, the old playbook is just broken. It's torn up. If your team is still waiting around for quarterly reports to figure out what people are saying about you, you're getting that information way too late. The public's mind is already made up. You're basically showing up to play a game that's already over.
Okay, so the big question is, right, what exactly changed so dramatically? What's the new ingredient here that has squeezed this whole cycle down from months into, well, moments?
The answer, in a word, is AI. You really have to start thinking about it as this new, massive, and incredibly powerful megaphone that's pointed right at your brand. And it's created this entirely new kind of audience for every single story that gets told about you, good or bad.
This is where we get this new idea of an information intermediary. See, every time someone goes and asks an AI like ChatGPT or Gemini about your company, it's not just doing a simple search. No, it's synthesizing. It's pulling in everything: news, social media, press releases, and weaving it all together to create a single consolidated story about who you are.
And this right here is where it gets really dangerous. Just take the Campbell's soup controversy as an example. A negative story didn't just pop up in the news for a day or two. It was immediately absorbed and then repeated by AI platforms. And that makes the negative story so much stickier. It gets embedded into search results and AI answers long, long after people have forgotten about the original headlines.
So here's the crucial difference. In the old world, the legacy model, you could kind of just wait it out. The news cycle would move on, a bad story would fade away. But in today's AI-mediated world, that negative narrative can become a permanent part of your brand's digital DNA. It literally shapes how machines describe you, potentially forever.
Okay, so how do you even fight back against that? Well, this is where we're seeing this huge strategic shift. It's not about just counting how many times you're mentioned online anymore. It's about proactively managing the entire story, the whole narrative that's being told about you.
And this brings us to the core concept, narrative management. This isn't about reacting after the fact. It's about having the real-time ability to actually see the storylines that are forming, to understand what they mean, and then to actively shape them before they end up defining you.
Let's just break that down a bit. A mention? That's just one little data point. It's reactive. The narrative, though, that's the whole picture. It's the difference between seeing one single tree and understanding which way the entire forest is growing. The winning question is no longer where were we mentioned, it's what story is actually forming about us.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but what does this proactive approach actually look like, in the real world? How do you make that jump from just counting mentions to truly managing a narrative? Well, it really boils down to 3 core activities. First, continuous narrative surveillance. You got to be always watching. Second, sentiment analysis that's actually about your brand, not just some generic keywords. And third, you have to be constantly benchmarking your story against what your competitors are doing. And you can see the difference so clearly when you put them side by side. On the left, you've got the old ways, things like basic keyword monitoring and quarterly reports. On the right, you've got real-time AI-driven intelligence that actually discovers emerging stories. And look at that row for audience scope. The modern approach is the only one that's watching the AIs and LLMs. That is absolutely not optional anymore. So to actually build this kind of capability, you need these 5 pillars. Think of it as your roadmap. It all starts with real-time intelligence, then clustering those individual stories into bigger themes. Next, you absolutely have to be monitoring AI perception. You also need a new way to measure your share of voice. And finally, you got to make sure your whole team, including your agencies, are all on the same page. Now, when you put all of those pillars together, you get to the most powerful idea in this whole thing. You stop just defending your reputation, and you start actively engineering it. You start treating it like the incredibly valuable strategic asset it really is.
Because the real win here, it isn't just about being faster when a crisis hits. The real win is seeing the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. It's having enough time to act and prevent that crisis from ever really making landfall in the first place.
And here's a perfect example of how that works. Imagine a few negative articles pop up about your sustainability efforts. Alone, they don't seem like much. But a good narrative intelligence system sees them clustering together into a dangerous greenwashing theme. It sees that theme starting to get traction. And that's your early warning bell. It gives your team the chance to get ahead of it, to shape the story before it explodes.
And that right there, that is the fundamental shift. You are no longer stuck in a defensive crouch, just trying to control the damage. You are on the offensive, using these insights to strategically position your brand and make your reputation stronger for the long run. So, we'll leave you with this final thought, which is really a call to action. In this new world, a narrative about your brand is always being written. The only question is, are you going to be the one holding the pen?